to people today, I can't claim to be an energy rock star. I'm a management consultant by training. And when I was at Ernst & Young, they even called me a strategy consultant. And so, in essence, what most of the strategy consulting I did boils down to, once you look at business models and opportunities and new technology and all that other kind of stuff, is essentially what's a company going to invest in the near term to get the best return they think makes sense. And that's kind of the idea that I was asked to sort of apply looking over the Energy Expansion Fund bill that Sarah gave me a copy of recently. And before I move on and blow away all my energy cred, someone mentioned the blower door up there. I can't remember if it was Art or Bob, but when I was in college, I did in physics, I did some energy research, and I had to make my own blower door. You couldn't buy them back then to do some energy analysis on some of the campus buildings. So actually, no one of those things are actually, at least the one I built. But these are really these slides are going to be my notes on kind of looking at the bill. And I think the first starting point here is, why should West Virginia start the Energy Expansion Trust Fund? Or if you happen to be one of our representatives in the legislature, why should you vote for such a thing? And that's sort of the way I kind of looked at this. And I think that there's quite a few reasons. And we've heard a lot about this one today. We've heard a lot about the utility bills are going up. I think that this also plays into some of the questions that we were just answering right before I started, is that for West Virginia, this is a relatively recent trend. And if you go out and do one of these searches on the internet, use Google or whatever, you'll find lots of data about how fast our electricity rates in particular have gone up since this time frame was 2006. Other people have higher percentages with different time frames. And then the ARP people have a nice little site bringing together all this data and also speak out in opposition against the utility high rates. But I think this is one of the issues that we're dealing with, that this is a relatively new phenomenon for our state because we've had low energy rates for a long time. When you look at how we're going to bring down those bills, and we're talking about what's the best, quickest, smartest way to bring down our utility bills, again, we've heard speaker after speaker essentially say efficiency is the answer. And so efficiency is the best way to bring down utility bills. Our homes were built when energy was a lot cheaper. We've heard various stories about what standards were being used at the time or whatever, but in essence, this is a trend. This was true across the country, particularly again in West Virginia, where the rates of the past been low. We had no reason to change the way we were building homes for a long time. And just a simple example of how a small change can make a big difference. You've been following the sort of light bulb controversy, I'm sure, in the media, but the average compact fluorescent light, just switching out one light bulb, that lowers that energy consumption of that particular light outlet from anywhere from 20 to 33%, depending on how strong the light bulb was that you're replacing. And so again, the efficiency is the quickest way to get the biggest bang for the buck. But as we also heard, where do we get the money to pay for the projects? And so that's where the expansion fund idea kind of came along. Many great bills or ideas get stopped by lack of funding. Investing in efficiency makes sense. I think the best number I saw today, of course, was when Michelle was talking about her building and the $8 more a month or so on the mortgage to get $30-some or $40-some in energy efficiency training. That's the nature of this types of projects. But where are we going to get the money? Well, paying your own way kind of makes sense. So the expansion fund is kind of based on the idea that we're going to pass the hat to create a fund. And this particular bill talks about 0.00035 cents per kilowatt hour to each electricity bill to put into a fund. I've played around with a lot of the math, trying to look at this different ways. You can get lost pretty easy, but I think most of us can get a very small amount. My calculations say that we'd raise about $11 million a year if we took that approach. And then with that $11 million in the fund, what could we do with it? Well, these are examples of what other states and other countries, as a matter of fact, have done. They've set up equity funds, they've reinvested the money in essentially energy efficient type investments. A revolving loan fund, so we're talking about how do we pay for some of these upgrades. Well, we can have a revolving loan fund that's either aimed at industry, at homeowners, or some combination of those types of things to pay for some of these upgrades. A rebate fund, the different versions of those have been used in the past, even in this state, for buying energy efficient appliances, for example. Market growth assistance, this is kind of going one step forward. If we want to incentivize businesses that are focusing on energy efficiency to ramp up and start doing things here in West Virginia, then we could use part of that fund to invest in early stage growth or whatever else we think is appropriate. But in essence, the way the bill is written, it's leaving us open to be able to use the fund for a multi-pronged approach, which I think is pretty smart. Create jobs. Again, if you want to go back and type in energy efficiency job creation or some version of that in Google, you'll get lots and lots of hits, lots of studies. And again, I started playing with the numbers, trying to decide what to bring in the impression. It gets complicated pretty fast, right? But how does energy efficiency create jobs? You can type that one in. It's a nice study. It shows both short-term effects of job creation from energy efficiency projects to long-term. I can tell you that the first one I spent some time reading through was I think it was a weatherization project, and the immediate thing on this focused area was something like 25 new jobs the first year and 40-some jobs kept created per year on the long term after that. So it was a pretty nice study for a very small project. Better Building Initiative drives investment, creates jobs. On the more commercial side, you can see a lot more impact in terms of studies showing how meeting some of these standards that we've been talking about drives a lot more job creation. And you can sort of pick it up already in the conversations. If you're talking about the need to be smarter about ventilation systems and how we're going to put the tight houses together with the other systems, it's going to take some more specialists to be involved in putting these systems in, how we should use them, the training and so forth. But the job creation pieces of it are very interesting, and there's lots of information out there about that. And then the fund attracts business. So there's simple economic development algorithms that can sort of show you that once you start creating jobs around a particular area, it doesn't take long for some entrepreneur to decide that he's going to rally around that and turn that into a kind of business opportunity. And that's without really anything directly being, in any direct incentive for that particular business to take off. It's just kind of watching the market. But if we use the fund the way that some of our neighboring states have done it to actually set some market growth, we can sort of spur that on and get a multiplying effect out of it as well. So again, if you do a search, actually a lot of them are related to the previous one on job creation, but the business attraction along the lines of some of the things that were talked about today. In other words, like the structural insulated panels made in West Virginia and other types of technology along those lines, bringing those businesses closer to the source of where they're being used is a pretty common practice. Let's see here. So we get back to kind of where I started. Why should West Virginia start the Energy Expansion Trust Fund? And I think it's a great idea for all West Virginians, in my review anyway. And I'm open for questions.